Welcome to one of the most listened to music news podcasts in the world, SGNP, with your host, Darren Sutherland. Join us as we talk with industry leaders, artists, and entertainers about their faith, family, and careers. This is information you will not find anywhere else on radio, web, or in a magazine, but only firsthand on SGNP.
SGNP is brought to you by Toccoa Falls College in Toccoa Falls, Georgia. For more information on TFC, call 706-886-7299 or visit them online at tfc.edu. That's tfc.edu. Since 1907, TFC, glorifying God through seeking and developing leaders who will impact the world for Jesus Christ.
And welcome once again to SGNP. Darren Sutherland and my co-host Arthur Rice. Arthur, it seems like it's been 2 or 3 weeks since we talked, but I know it's been about a week and a half. We'd built up a log of shows, including this one, before this coronavirus struck us all, where we all had to stay in place. But it's still in effect, and
feels like the 35th Saturday in a row.
You know, as we, what are your friends saying? Because I know you musicians and you artists are talking to each other, but what's everybody saying on that side? I mean, you can't perform, you can't. I mean, I know these live things that's been going on. Scott Godsey Media has done some groups are doing their own, but what's everybody talking about right now? I mean, what's their thoughts?
Well, you know, the biggest thing I think is it's just the unknown of we can't say, well, you know, our dates next month are going to hold up, and even if they do, will people come out?
Yeah,
you know, I mean, you know, most people know the majority of our crowd are older people.
Yeah,
you know, will they come out? And I think that's the thing. It's just the unknown, the planning, the planning for tomorrow. Because it's hard. You know, we have to depend on the Lord, but we need to plan.
And truthfully, when Dollywood opens back up, you don't know what your setup's going to be, do you?
Exactly. Yeah, because it's they're talking. You know, even when we start opening the country again, and when we start back to work and stuff, you know, we're still going to have to distance ourselves from, that personal space has become larger, and whether or not, you know, people are going to be scared to come out and be around people. You just don't, you
just never know. Hey, man, give me some good news. So give me something good that you've heard in the past 2 to 3 weeks that you've, that just some good news. We could talk about this coronavirus all day long, and we all know what's getting it, and it's driving us all crazy. But tell us about some good news, my friend.
Well, you know, I think one of the strongest things is, that our country does, if you watch the news, it's all negative and all, you know, you get so depressed after an hour watching that stuff. It's like, but if you go out and you go just like to the grocery store or something, you know, there's people out there. Those are the heroes, man. Those folks that are working around, you know, around people all day long, and they're, you know, in our grocery stores, our truck drivers, our people that are, you know, that a lot of times you don't think about now have become our unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are on the front lines of this thing. You know, they're right out there in the middle of it. And I just the courage of them to do that is tremendous. And I think anytime you can thank them as much as you possibly can, you know, for being open to come to work and be, you know, to help. And so I love that. I love the way that our country pulls together. People pull together.
Yep.
And that's a great thing.
You know, I look at my own things in my own life, and our business has dropped roughly 70%, easy.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I think, Arthur, I said, man, 70%. But guess what? Some folks have dropped 100%.
exactly.
So at least, I said this to myself. I said, I'll work for free until I can't work no more. And, I just believe diligence will breed excellence at the end of the day. So,
yeah.
Anyway, it is what it is, my friend. Hey, I did this interview, I guess, about 3 weeks ago with my good friend Brian Sanders. Brian is vice president of PAR, Positive Alternative Radio, which is head of one of the largest Southern gospel stations in all the country. In other words, he's Daniel Brett's boss. And, everybody knows Daniel from up there in Winston-Salem, big artist if you're a leader. And Brian used to write at one time for the Singing News magazine years ago, was a writer for that, and very progressive and very innovative guy. And he and I sat down while you were on vacation. And, man, before we even talk about what he said in regards to leadership, I think he's one of the biggest Kingsman's fans that ever walked the face of the earth, Arthur. I mean, he knew all the members and knew all the stories.
I know. He really was. And, I think you're right. I was surprised, but I think he knows all those great stories.
And some ungreat,
Yes. But that was, that's great. I love the fact. I love watching how, God has used him through the years and has grown. He's faithful in the small things, and God's grown him.
Yeah.
And he's blossomed out into just doing great work.
Doing great job. Great job. So, Anyway, Brian Sanders is our special guest. Hey, if you want to find out more about us, flip over to our Facebook page, and you can check us out, Southern Gospel News Podcast. You can find us on our website, Southern Gospel News Podcast, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, wherever you want to find us, you can find Southern Gospel News Podcast. We post a song of the day. We post some fun things. I got in a little trouble on there this week, Arthur. And I've always heard if you can make 80% of the people happy, you're a winner, because you'll never make 100% of the people happy. But there was a church up in Maryland, okay, and we posted a church sign that they put out this week on SG. Man, I can't see my preacher doing that. Can you see your preacher doing that?
Probably not, no.
Oh, man.
But it got the message across, that's for sure.
It did. If you want to see what it said, you need to jump over there to the Facebook site and you can see it. But, hey, man, let's play a song by the Kingsmen. Here's one that I think you'll all like. We'll come right back with our good friend Brian Sanders on SGNP.
Then you'll meet me by and by. Keep your lamps all trimmed and burning with no shadow of a doubt. While the bridegroom is returning, don't let your lamp go out. Meet me at the table at the breaking of the bread. Meet me over yonder where the millions will be fed. Come and join the celebration. Heaven's wedding bells will ring. heavy bells will ring. Meet me at the table of the King. Meet me at the table of the can make it, though old Satan says don't try. Make that promise, then don't break it, then you'll meet me by and by. Keep your lamps all trimmed and burning with no shadow of a doubt. For the bridegroom's returning, don't let your lamp go out. Come on and meet me at the table at the breaking of the bread. Meet me over yonder celebration, heaven's wedding bells will ring. Meet me at the table of the King. Yeah. Meet me at the table at the breaking of the bread. Meet me over yonder where the millions will be fed. Come and join the celebration, heaven's wedding bells will ring. Meet me at the table of the King.
Hi, this is Toranda, and you're listening to SGNP.
Hey, this is Darren, and I'm here for my buddy Mike Lindell and My Pillow. That's right, My Pillow. I got to tell you a little secret, and this is a true story. The other day I'm laying in the bed, I looked at Mary and I said, I'm going to get me some new pillows today. She said, what do you need with new pillows? You got them. I said, I got one that's decent, and I didn't know which one it was. I mean, I knew which one it was, and I pulled the cover off of it, and it was my Pillow. The rest of them were these ones that we bought from TJ Maxx or Target or Walmart or somewhere that just had worn out their welcome. And you know what, guys? I feel like I needed new pillows. And she said, well, why don't you call My Pillow, because you like the one you got there, and tell them what you're looking for, and they'll help you out. You know what? I called, and guess what? They helped me out. They asked me what size I was. They asked me how I slept. Did I sleep on my back or on my side or on my stomach? What felt right? Feathers or, blah, 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 foam. They asked me all these questions. More questions than I ever dreamed about a pillow, and I got my new My Pillow in the mail, and I've slept right. You want that change in your life? It's real simple. 1-800-338-2330. 1-800-338-2330. Use the code word SGNP. That's right, the code word SGNP. And tell them you heard about this special offer. And when you use that code, you'll get a great discount from the folks at My Pillow. I use My Pillow. You should too. 1-800-338-2330. Use the code SGNP. My Pillow, the official pillow and sleep provider of Southern Gospel News Podcast.
This is Josh Singletary with Tribute Quartet, and you're listening to SGNP.
And welcome back to SGNP. Darren Sutherland here with you. And my special guest, I'm gonna break. And if you want to know, folks, why I'm behind the microphone today, you could probably blame this guy. And I tell people this all the time. And I don't think when he got in touch with me or when we made contact years ago that we ever dreamed that he would be sitting where he's sitting and I would be sitting where I'm sitting, and he would have the impact he's having and we're having the impact we're having. If we're having impact, I don't know, we may just be, some folks in the place says, oh, you're just causing trouble, Darren, bringing up stuff that's behind the veil out in public. No, if it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. Lift it up. Let the Lord take credit for it. Let him say he don't like it, what have you. But my special guest today, Brian Sanders, Mr. Vader, if you will. Brian.
Hello. I am good, sir. All those years ago,
yeah.
Whenever I hired you there in Atlanta, Georgia, and I think at the time I may have been writing for the Singing News magazine. If I'm correct, maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's back when JD used to give you a hard time back in the day.
Yes, and for those listening, over 20 years ago, I wrote for the Singing News, and it was Brian Rush. It was Brian Rush Sanders back then. So if you remember that, there you go.
You know what?
And listen, you can blame me because I hired Darren into Southern gospel music.
That's right.
So there you go.
There you go. And you know what? Ever since, but even before that, I've always had a love for it. And you've had a love for Southern gospel music, even though your present position, you are the president of the Positive Alternative Radio Group that stretches from North Carolina north to where? Maryland, Virginia? I mean, where are all you guys at?
Right. Well, let me say this just so that I can give my boss props.
Yeah.
I'm the executive vice president.
Okay.
My boss is the president. So just understand. We cover. We have terrestrial signals all the way from Delaware, Maryland, Virginia Beach, all the way through Virginia, Tennessee, West Virginia, Kentucky, South Carolina, North Carolina. I could keep going. Our app is just all over the world. People listen to us online from all over the world. So our influence with gospel music and with
contemporary, whatever,
and with it's actually pretty strong, I'd say.
And so what you do, we're guys. So let me just say this: we're not talking to somebody that runs a 5,000 watt AM station. Not that they're not important, because they are. Everybody's important. Brian's got a pretty tough job making sure all these stations are running correctly. They're profitable, so they can promote the message of Christ on a daily basis. Is that not the way it works, Brian?
That's very right. Yes, 100%.
Tell me, man, why? I mean, you're from down around New Orleans, Louisiana, okay? Where did you fall in love with gospel music? What's the story behind that?
My mom used to take me to gospel singings when I was a kid. And when I was 3 years old, she took me to hear the Happy Goodmans and the Rambos. And I was hooked. Those Happy Goodmans they could do convention-style singing. And it was incredible. It was incredible. And then a little bit later, my aunt, my mom's sister, gave me an album. It was called Chattanooga Live by the Kingsmen Quartet.
I'm going to send you that album if you don't got it, by the way.
I have it. I have it on CD. I got it on my iPhone. I got it hanging on the wall, actually, the actual album. And that got me hooked. I'd never heard anything like that. And then my mom had an old 8-track tape called The Best of the Kingsmen. And so she loved the Kingsmen. She loved the Inspirations. She liked the Chuck Wagon Gang, which for me, Harold
Timmons, if you're listening, we're sorry. How about that?
I know Harold.
Yes.
So that got me and the Rambos and the Goodmans. That's how I cut my teeth. That's how that music got inside of me. There was something about that music that got inside of me, and it identified with me. It gave me hope, and it put the seeds of the gospel itself inside of my heart, so that when the Lord called me, I was ready to accept Him as my Savior.
Gotcha. Brian, arguably, you run the best Southern gospel network in America. You've got some.
Well, there you go. You're trying to start a fight now.
No. I'm not trying to start.
Okay.
You've got great personnel up under you, like Daniel Britt, your morning show host and program director.
Yes, sir.
Where do you find folks like that? I mean, let's face it, we live in a world where there's not too many like me and you that know gospel music and know radio and know this industry and how it works. Where does Brian Sanders go to find people to plug in to make that network good? Because it's not just how you talk on the radio. There's a lot of other variables involved in it. So where do you go?
Okay, here's what I do. We look for people who have great attitudes, have a passion to change the world, and probably have a low skill set. Why do I do that? Because I can teach skill. I can't teach attitude. I can teach you the history of this music. I can give you album after album. I can have you listen to all the music. But if you don't enjoy life, if you don't like to laugh and smile and have a good attitude, you're not going to fit around here. So we hire attitude and we train for skill. What oftentimes I discover with other networks is that they hire the voice.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine and good, but my thing is that people aren't listening to a voice. They are listening for a smile. And you can actually tell if the person that you're listening to is actually smiling. Yeah. You can tell.
Yeah.
And so we hire the smile, and then we actually train them in the things that we want them to be. So I'd say that's my big secret.
What's the biggest problem with Southern gospel radio today?
The lack of music testing.
Yep.
Would be the biggest problem. We actually invest in that. That costs us tens of thousands of dollars a year. We know who our demographic is, our target listener. We will gather them together twice a year. They don't know that it's us that's actually doing the whole music test. We will put our playlists out there, as well as some new songs. And we have people... and we will have people rate those songs. Remember, your goal as a radio station is to get the maximum number of people listening for the longest amount of time.
Yeah.
And if you're not testing your product, then how do you know what you're playing is actually enjoyed by those who are listening? And this is what people will say. Well, people call and they tell us. Okay, that's probably a very small slice of the people who are actually listening to you. So I would say music testing, because I don't want to. Okay, I'll just be blunt. Sometimes songs get added because it's by a certain group.
Yeah.
Well, just because it's by a certain group doesn't mean that it's going to be enjoyed.
Right.
For example, I can tell you what our network does, Joy FM. If it's a new song, it gets emailed out to a certain number of listeners. Mm-hmm. They tell us if they like it or not. If they do, it gets added. Second stage, if we start getting a response to that song, it goes to a monthly music test, to where people then, and this is like hundreds of people, and then these people can vote it up or down. Again, we're not judging the whole spirituality of that song.
You're just judging if people like it or not. That's all you do.
Yes. So then, if it continues to progress, it'll enter into that twice annual big in-person music test, where that really defines that whole on-air sound.
I got to tell you something.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I'm bad.
No, go ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
Well,
I'm done.
Go ahead. I got to tell you something funny that your music caused in my house last night. Okay, so I'm listening to your Joy. Okay. I'm listening to your Joy FM app last night. Okay, And, man, you played Gold City, Cast My Bread Upon the Water, and I'm just sitting there singing. I'm sitting there singing. Then all of a sudden you played I'm Going Home with Jesus, and I started singing. And in the other room of the house, the wife yells, and I had my headphones on. And all of a sudden the dog starts barking. And I jerked the headphones off, and I run in there. And I said, Mary, what's wrong? Why's Reddy, our dog, barking? She said, because you're singing so loud with those headphones on, with the radio station. And what it was it goes back to what you say by your playlist. It's not what you say, it's not what you do, it's how you make people feel. And your playlist made me feel like singing out loud with you and getting my praise on. So thank you for that. And by the way, we didn't even set that up, but if we had that would have been a pretty good segment, Brian. What do you think?
That would have been a great segment. Well, so thank you, sir. And that's the whole goal.
Yeah.
Because if we can get the most amount of people listening for the longest amount of time, we have a better chance of impacting that heart with the gospel of Jesus Christ.
No doubt.
So it isn't what the DJ likes. It's what the listener likes. It's what that consumer likes. That's how we program.
And I've often said,
and that makes artists. And I'll say this: that makes artists unhappy. But and this is what we often say to them: we're sorry, but they're our customers. They're our consumers, and we're going to play what they want to hear.
Yeah.
That is market driven.
No doubt.
There you go.
I've often said this, and this is the last thing I'll talk about this music testing. In other genres, there's a difference between great live music and great radio music. Let me give you an example in another genre, and everybody that's a Southern gospel fan knows this song right here. Leonard Skinner's Freebird, okay? There's not a better live song for a rock concert, a Southern rock concert in America than Freebird. With organ playing and all that. Do you feel the same way about Southern gospel music? There's sometimes great live music that fits the audience, but when it comes to radio, it just, boy, I tell you what, you can just hear this. You can just hear the radios being cut off or somebody hitting another station. And unfortunately, because something's great live doesn't mean it's going to be great on the air. Would you agree?
I do agree, 100%.
Yeah.
And you can't judge a live audience's reaction to a certain song as to whether it's going to sell on the radio, because you're dealing with a closed audience there, and that audience may not be 100% your target market. So you just got to understand that. But on the flip side, I'll say this, that there have been groups that when their albums were live, they performed better than they did if it was just a studio record, like the Happy Goodmans, like the Kingsmen.
Yeah.
Those certain artists, the Perrys, used to put out great live albums. And the McCain's did great with that.
No doubt.
Then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so there are certain artists who would perform better in a live setting than they would in just a recording studio setting.
There's not a better live performance of a song, and every gospel artist will tell you the same thing, than Jeanette Cook of the Singing Cooks singing Ain't No Grave Gonna Hold My Body Down. Okay? Not a better live performance out there. Okay? But on the radio, it's good, but it's not as great as it is live. Is that fair?
And the people who would appreciate that song are a small percentage of the whole radio audience.
Right.
So that's what skews that whole music listening thing.
And now you and I have just got two nails in our hand on a cross of effigy because we have crucified the singing cooks, and that's not true at all. We love the singing cooks.
No, I do too. I mean, I love them.
Yeah.
We're talking about how
Right.
artists appear on different platforms. They could do great
Yep.
in a live concert, but it may not sound great over the radio.
I tell you somebody else back in the day who was the same way. Charles Johnson and the Revivers. If you ever saw Charles in person, it was a different thing than listening to him on radio altogether.
Yes.
Altogether.
Yeah.
No doubt. Hey, you've made no secret about this in conversations with me, and your favorite group of all time was the Old Time Kingsmen with Hamill and all those guys. Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
What was that appeal that got you for that ton of fun? I mean, you like me are a big guy. Was it because they were a ton of fun and you could identify with them? Why was the Kingsmen just back in the day? And you love Ray Dean now, and you are good friends now. But what was it about the Kingsmen that got Brian Sanders really just jumping?
There was an energy about them. Hamill would nail you to the wall with that energy he had, and they would bring it every single night. Full live band, tenor screaming, Hamill playing traffic cop, Rating dropping the whole end notes on that. There was just an energy that they had, and nobody did it better. Nobody did it better than they did back in those 80s and in those 90s. And they're doing a pretty good job of it today. They just scored a #1 song with Victory Shout.
Yeah.
So, there's still some, they're still out there just knocking it out of the park. So, I loved them. I mean, yeah, I loved them. I loved Ernie and Hamill and Squire and Ray, and I could walk you through just about every single lineup they ever had. They had an energy, and their songs ministered to me. And I remember having huge arguments with people about who was better, the Kingsmen, the Cathedrals, and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, and today I just laugh and think, y'all, it's just crazy, but it does help drive magazine sales, I'll say that. Back in the day. So,
is Hamill the best MC you ever seen?
Wow. I would say on any given night, it would have to be between him and George Yonts.
Yeah.
Hamill, Yonts, if it was the Cathedrals by themselves,
yeah,
nobody was better. Yonts could take you to the feet of Jesus.
Yeah.
And so could Hamill. Hamill could do that as well. But what was amazing about Hamill is that the Kingsmen would always be on last. Always be on last. And the crowd would just be wore out. I mean, there'd be some other group that just tore the place apart, chunking babies off the balcony. And Hamill would come out there, and the first song, he knew how to pick a song. He would just grab that audience right back in his palm, and he'd bring them back to him. And you'd sit there, and just for like 45 minutes, you'd just be captivated. And Hamill's trick that he would do is that he would make fun of a guy in the group so that you'd fall in love with him.
Yeah.
So he would act like he couldn't stand the person so that you would love that person. And people never got that. That was Hamill's shtick. People loved Anthony Berger because he was great. Hamill made fun of him.
Yeah. I've often heard.
There you go.
I've often heard this about those two. The difference between those two was this. Yonts would take you up the road to the top of the mountain. Hamill would take you up the rough side of the mountain where nobody had ever tried to go up before. But they would both get you to the top of the mountain. And when you got to the top of the mountain, you'd be ready to jump off for either one of them.
Yes, I have to agree.
Arthur's often said to me that he never knew what was coming next with Hamill. You just never knew. Brian, you've just wrote your first book on leadership. Tell us all about it, buddy.
You're very kind. It's Leadership Endurance. You can go to briansandersauthor.com, look it up. So there you go. It's about how to endure, about how not to quit. It's good for mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. If to the person out there who has a group who's thinking about quitting, perhaps you have a business you're thinking about quitting, you have a dream, and you're thinking about quitting, this book is for you. Because life is so hard, it will beat you down to where you just want to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
So I went and I studied the lives of Lincoln and FDR and Grant and then also Churchill. And I read, I'm going to say how many books, and I started to discover certain traits that these men shared that allowed them to endure, that allowed them not to quit. And these guys faced tremendous obstacles, things I will never face. And so that's why I wrote the book. You are very kind, sir. Thank you for asking.
Do we? I'm gonna ask you about this leadership thing, because personally, I mean, it's a trait that many of us business owners spend a lot of money trying to understand. Do you find that the best leaders are natural leaders, are taught leaders? Where do you find, Brian, that you find the best leadership this day and time?
It's born out of crisis. Yeah. You don't know if you have that gift until you face some kind of crisis. You don't know. We would not have known if Lincoln was a great leader unless he would have faced the Civil War. Think about that.
Yeah.
You will never know the depth of your skill until you meet an obstacle that matches your whole skill set. So leaders are made. You can be born with the DNA, but it takes hardship to extract that out of you and then for you to live it.
At one time, if we think about gospel music, okay, we can look back 20 years ago and we say, we can point to Maurice. There's our leader right there. Okay? We go back 15 years ago. We look at Bill Gaither. There's our leader right there. Anybody rising up right now that you see as leader in gospel music? Anybody you think? I mean, group?
I'm going to change. Okay. Let me change a term.
Okay.
I don't think that, let me say this. The industry doesn't fall under one person's hand.
Right.
So it has influencers.
Yeah, that's a good way.
There have been strong influencers in our past.
Right.
Who have helped to guide and mold and to actually shape us.
Yeah.
Are there people who are rising up? Well, yes. They're out there. They're rising up, and I think of like Arthur Rice, who actually shares this podcast with you.
Yeah,
he helps with that Southern Gospel Music Hall of Fame.
No doubt.
That's a huge influence that he has, and he probably influences more folks than just about any other artist because of Dollywood. I mean, they get 3,000 or 4,000 people a day to listen to them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That is influence.
No,
that is actually influence there. So, yeah, you have him. You have Gerald Wolfe. You have Gaither, who is still in the mix, doing that stuff. Dean Hopper would also be an influencer. But I don't know if there's a Maurice Templeton. I'd have to say out of all those that probably Arthur is probably leading the way simply because of the range of the influence he has,
Yeah.
because of his influence as well over the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Who's on
And
your...
and then let me say this.
Yeah.
And Arthur is very humble about it.
No doubt. You know, the biggest complaint I get on this show, you know what it is? That he don't talk enough. I get that all the time. I get mail, hey, why don't Arthur ask more questions? And I tell Arthur that, and he's off playing golf today, and we'll both give him a hard time for that. He texted me a while ago and says, it started raining, so we got put behind. That's why he's not sitting here today, and I'm just throwing it out there to give him a hard time. But I get Arthur doesn't, but you're exactly right. Humble leader, and when he says something, he means it. That's what we all love about him.
Yeah.
Brian, who's on?
What? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to ask you what you're going to ask me, so go ahead.
Who's on your Mount Rushmore of influencers in gospel music? Any time period. Who's your four? I'll tell you my four first.
Has to be J.D. Okay. J.D. Sumner.
Yeah.
I have to put Hamill up there.
Okay.
Now this is for Brian Sanders. This is not for. This is J.D. Okay, J.D. Hamill, Yachts, and then Glenn Payne. And let me explain why.
Okay.
Glenn showed that a person could have class and also integrity and be successful in this business.
Yep. Love it.
Yachts taught us how to sing.
Yep.
Yachts taught us that it wasn't just about hitting low notes. It was about sounding good when you sing. Hamill taught us how to have fun, how to MC, how to engage an audience.
Yeah.
And how to make others look great. Hamill made stars out of so many others. Think about it. Squire Parsons, Ernie Phillips, Anthony Berger. He put these guys, Arthur Rice, he put these guys out front and made stars out of them. J.D. Sumner, National Quartet Convention, the bus thing, he did all that. I mean, the dude's huge influence.
Yeah.
So you have to include him.
And, you know, it's always been a fun question because everybody's got four different ones. Like my four are real simple, okay? And they're close to yours, but none of them agree. I've got Hovey. You know why? There was nobody that touched the secular audience and took gospel music across a portal better than Hovey Lister did, okay? You got Les. Les Beasley took it into more people's homes via the gospel singing Jubilee than anybody ever before.
Well, there you go.
You got Bill Gaither because Bill took it to new heights, okay? And you've got Vestal Goodman because if you think about it, what other woman in an industry that, let's just say this, that kind of holds women back, just pushed her way through and said, I'm here and I am not, she says, she didn't say it this way, but she basically put it this way. I am the singer. The singer has arrived. And when I start, the Spirit's going to be here, and we're going to church. She brought that camp meeting feeling to the house. And then number four, when you mention any four of those by first name, everybody knows who you're talking about in gospel music circles. Make sense? So it's
that's a good four. Yeah.
So how can these artists and industry personnel be better leaders today, Brian? How can they take some of the things that you talk about in your book and apply it to their ministry and to their business and grow it for the glory of God?
One, be patient. It doesn't come overnight. You're going to have to pay the price. You're going to have to almost go bankrupt. You're going to have to endure personnel who are going to drive you up the wall. You're going to have to learn how to deal with people. You're going to have to learn how to live with an audience who can love this song and then not like this particular song. You're going to have to not give up. And even when you're scared and it looks like that there's market disruption and people are upset because folks are downloading music from iTunes instead of buying
CDs.
instead of buying CDs. Yeah, I mean, and you can't. Here's my thing: don't fight that.
Yeah.
Because that tidal wave is bigger than you. My dad, who passed away about 18 months ago, subscribed to satellite radio, and I used to say, "Daddy, don't you know what business I'm in? You can download my app. You're killing me. You're hurting me." He says, "I ain't hurting you." He says, "But that's what I want." And so here's the thing, is that we're fighting a tidal wave. This is the key. You have to produce such good content that people will come find you no matter what platform you are on.
Yep.
Produce such good content that people will come find you no matter where you are. They're like, well, that hurts profit margins. Well, then get out of the business.
Yeah.
But you have to find a way to survive within the rules and the market changes that are occurring. You know, sure. I think I saw. Who was it? I think I saw the Tallies or even somebody else pitching. No, it was Triumphant. Had all their music downloaded on this little box thing, and you could plug it into your car, and you could listen to all their songs
on a zip drive. Yeah.
And it was like a zip drive, and so they're sitting there selling that, and I'm thinking they have found a way to win.
Yeah.
You know, because the car I'm driving does not have a CD player in it.
Mine either.
So we're going to have to learn to adapt. So this is my thing. Go where the people are. Bring your best. And let them decide what they love and what they like and what they don't like.
Yep.
And that will help you. That'll help you win in this industry.
Great words. Great words. Great words. What could Southern Gospel do to improve their self, Brian? To make it more appealing to the general public, you think?
What could Southern Gospel music do to make it just keep doing what?
To make themselves more appealing to the general public. What can they do?
There's something I want to say that I'm not going to say.
We're not talking about those groups that need to stay at church and not think they're pros, okay?
No, I wasn't thinking that.
I was.
This is what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Make it about the kingdom and Jesus and his gospel.
Yeah.
And nothing else. Make it about the kingdom, Jesus and his gospel, and nothing else. I think we are yearning for eternal solutions, and that's where you'll find those.
Yeah.
So I think I said that in a good way.
Buddy, I appreciate your time, man. I know you've got a lot on your plate running all those stations, and but you know what?
Let me say this to you.
Go ahead.
I am proud of Darren.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
You know this industry. You've worked in this industry. I love how you treat this whole thing as theater.
Yeah.
And for those who are listening to this, Darren treats this as if it is theater, and he wants you to actually react. So if you react to him, that's a win.
Yeah.
Because he has engaged you. So, buddy, hats off to you. You're doing it. I couldn't be prouder of you.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. And we have a lot of fun. We actually have a lot of fun. And you know what I think the greatest part about this, Brian, is I get to ask my heroes questions. Who else gets to sit and not even just my heroes, I get to ask other people questions about what I love the most, and that's gospel music. I mean, I get to ask Charlie Daniels what he thinks about Christian music. I get to ask Brian Sanders. I get to ask Peg McCamey. Just before I did this interview with you, you know, the funny thing it was kind of funny because you mentioned JD. Brian Free, I had him on. We just did an interview 30 minutes literally before we talked to you. We talked to Brian. And we were saying, Brian, what was it like to leave Gold City and be so progressive? And he says, you ought to look at the articles J.D. wrote about me when, you know, he was writing for the Singing News. Said, you know, Brian's just going to be stuck in little Baptist churches across the country and never make it to the main stage singing that progressive stuff. And, you know, you think about things
and I actually think I was writing articles that said, this is where we need to go. But there's that. Go ahead.
Hey, would you mind telling this right here? And you know what? It's not that it's a funny story now, but this is how serious some folks take it. And at the end of the day, to me, gospel music's all about the gospel. It's not about, oh, you fit in this culture, and just because Third Day puts this type of music, or Casting Crowns, or Stephen Curtis Chapman, they could never sing a Southern gospel song because they've done crossed over into that contemporary heartland. But you told me, your wife told me this at lunch not too long ago, and I hope I'm not speaking inappropriately, and you can tell me I'm not answering that, or I'll edit it out, whatever you want me to do. You actually got some very aggressive hate mail, so to speak.
Okay, we actually, this is back in the mid-'90s. I've probably been married 2 or 3 years to my wife, Kayla, by the way, who I'm still married to. Let me just say that.
Yeah, you're a gospel singer. Glad you clarified that.
I ain't a singer. You're awful. You ought to edit that. I was writing articles about how Gold City was great, about how the Kingsmen were great, and I was looking toward the future. I wasn't looking toward the past.
Yeah.
And that angered so many people. We actually got bomb threats. We actually had stuff sent to our home address that the police had to come and take and do away with because it could injure me and my wife.
Really?
And Kayla and my wife, yes! That was multiple occasions. And
I don't mean to
my
laugh,
wife,
but I'm just sitting
but
there
it's true.
thinking, what idiot would send somebody for writing a gospel music article about Jesus, a bomb or whatever, to their house? That's crazy.
No, I never said it wasn't a bomb, but it was something. It could hurt you. And the police had to come out. I mean, that happened 3 or 4 times. And let me just say this: people take the Southern gospel music very, very seriously.
Oh, trust me, I get
which is good. And this is going to be my whole last point. It's going to be my last point, and we'll be done. Okay?
Yes, sir. Go.
I'd like to encourage all of us to remember that we have a passion bandwidth. And you've got to decide what you're going to be passionate about. My number one passion would be Jesus. At least that's where I'm fighting for that passion.
Yeah.
Then it would be my wife. Then it would be my work. And then it would hopefully be my friends and things like that. But when I read social media, sometimes it looks like that our opinions about gospel music or about politics or about this or about somebody that's in the news or something over here, that's our big passion point. And this is my fear. Are we so passionate about these things that are temporary that we're not passionate enough about things that are eternal?
Yeah.
That's a danger. That's a real danger. So that's the last thing I'll say.
pastors, group leaders, radio station owners, Christians, individuals, moms and dads, pick up his book. It's called Leadership Endurance. Brian Sanders. Brian, you know I love you, man. You're a good friend, and thank you for those kind words earlier. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be with us, my buddy.
Love you, my friend. Appreciate you.
All right, buddy. Go to find it on Amazon, anywhere you get your books. Brian Sanders there, Arthur. Arthur, you know, we talked about leaders in gospel music, and he mentioned you.
Wow.
He said Arthur Rice, without a doubt, is a leader, and you are a quiet leader, my friend. I don't mean you don't have a voice, because when you speak, people listen. I get comments all the time. Let Arthur talk more. You need to hush. Let Arthur talk more. And I try, but you do talk more now. But, you know, how do you see your leadership in gospel music?
You know, I look at myself as I'm the least of any. I really, and I don't mean that to sound overly pious. I really don't. I mean, I look at all the other artists and what all they're doing, and I think, man, I wish I could do something like that, or I wish I could do more of this or that. But, you know, that's how God uses us individually, because I can't do what the next person's doing. I can't do what they're doing. But in the same right, you know, they can't do what I do. And that's how the Lord uses all of us. And I'm honored, you know, I'm flattered, very flattered, and for his mention. But I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to be in a place that hopefully we can influence people in the right direction and point people toward Christ and point our industry toward Christ. And I appreciated it, but I feel very least of any.
You know, Arthur, who do you see as leaders in this industry?
Well, you know,
no. Let me say this. Let's say this. We all know who the leaders are that are artists, okay? But, and we know about, you know, great record company owners like Bill Gaither, Chris White, and Ed Leonard, and others, okay?
Yeah.
Who are some of the unsung heroes that nobody ever sees, or never gets an accolade, or never gets a pat on the back, but folks within the industry knows what they do? I can tell you somebody right off the top of my head, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's Paul Howe, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
He's heard by more people every week than anybody in gospel music. And the average fan may not know who he is. But to, I would say, 80% of the country, he represents gospel music as a whole.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assumption?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, he kind of directs our music in that area. And I'll tell you somebody else that I think is crucial to the leadership of our music, and that's the DJs.
Yeah.
Because they direct the music that people hear. Yeah, you can call and request a song and that sort of thing. And you know, we're thankful for that. But a lot of times they don't necessarily get that much input from the audience to say, hey, play this or play that. And so they direct everybody toward what's what they're listening
right
to. And I think that they are you don't see the, we had the 80s, where you had Maurice Templeton, where, he was a leader or director as kind of a wrangler, maybe.
Yeah.
kind of that sort of thing. You don't see as much of that, but it's a different age.
Yeah, it is.
It's a different time. And so that's what you have to keep in mind. You don't see that. You think, well, they're not there. Yeah, they are. It's just different.
No doubt.
And so that's kind of the way I see it.
No doubt. Well, Arthur, as we close, I know we need this unseen hand to touch us all. We need it to heal our land. And we need it to help the groups out there. And we need it to inspire the people that are hurting and the people that even aren't hurting, but they just need that human touch.
Yeah.
And
It's a lonely time, I think, for people, especially if they don't have someone, somebody close, and I think it can be lonely. So reach out to people.
It's a scary time too.
It is
Scary
it
time.
can be. Yes,
The government says we're all going to get help. Well, I'm still waiting on help.
Well, I think they're trying, and I think they're doing a good job. And I can't imagine the stress that they are under, and I think we all need to pray for our president and the team that's leading this fight, and pray for them. Give them wisdom and what they do. Give them peace and let them rest. I can't imagine the stress that they're under, and to be picked at every single day, for whatever decision, right, wrong, or indifferent.
You're right.
And it's just amazing, and I think we need to lift them up and encourage them all that we can.
No doubt. Arthur, one last question before we get out of here, and we ask you this every week. What's wrong with living right anyway?
Not a thing.
Not a thing. You've been listening to SGNP.
SGNP is excited you chose to listen today. If you'd kindly leave a remark and rating in the podcast remarks section, we surely would appreciate it. Please share with a friend or family member. Look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and our new website, SouthernGospelNewsPodcast.com.